It started with a single message, one that none of them had expected. Ethan was the first to see it. His phone buzzed at precisely 12:01 a.m., lighting up his dark room with a message from an unknown number. Have you ever heard of the place that disappears? Attached to the message was a set of coordinates. At first, he assumed it was some kind of prank, maybe one of his friends messing with him. But when he forwarded the message to their group chat, he was met with silence. Then, one by one, his friends replied with the same chilling realization. Each of them had received the exact same message at the exact same time. Curiosity turned to unease. They searched the coordinates online, but there was nothing. No records, no images, not even a single mention in any forum or map service. It was like the location didn't exist. That should have been a reason to forget about it. But something about the message felt like a challenge. A place that disappeared. Could it be an abandoned site, a hidden landmark, or something else entirely? The possibilities fed their curiosity, tempting them into action. The next night, they made the plan. They would meet near the last known road leading into the forest, bringing flashlights, cameras, and enough supplies for a short trip. None of them expected anything seriously dangerous. But then again, none of them knew what they were walking into. As the clock approached midnight, they gathered at the agreed location. The road stretched ahead, lit only by the pale glow of the moon. The air was colder than usual, carrying an unnatural stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, as they prepared to set off, their phones vibrated again. Another message from the same unknown sender. Don't go past midnight, or you won't leave at dawn. A warning, or a threat. Despite the chill creeping down their spines, Ethan and his friends ignored it. They stepped into the darkness, and the forest welcomed them in silence. The night was unnaturally silent. Ethan and his friends stood before the pathway, staring at the twisted archway of roots that marked the entrance. The forest loomed beyond, an abyss of shadows with no visible end. The wind didn't blow, no insects chirped. The world felt paused, waiting for them to step forward. Ethan glanced at his phone. 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before midnight. That last warning message flashed in his mind. Don't go past midnight, or you won't leave at dawn. Should they turn back? Should they listen? Kyle, the most reckless in the group, laughed nervously. It's just some dumb prank, he muttered, stepping forward without hesitation. The moment his foot crossed the archway, the forest changed. The air thickened, colder than before. The distant glow of streetlights behind them, gone. The path they came from vanished. What the hell? Ethan gasped, turning back. The entrance had sealed itself behind them, trees shifting like sentient beings, closing in like a trap. Then came the whisper. Software distant, but unmistakable. Welcome. The voice wasn't human, it wasn't singular. It was a chorus, like hundreds of whispers merging into one. The friends exchanged panicked looks. What was that? Mia whispered, her flashlight trembling in her grip. No one answered, but deep inside, they all knew. They weren't alone. The deeper they walked, the thicker the air became, heavy, suffocating, unnatural. It felt like the forest itself was pressing against their lungs, making every breath shallow. Kyle led the way, shining his flashlight ahead, but the beam barely cut through the mist. The trees looked wrong, twisted in ways that didn't make sense. Some seemed to lean toward them, as if listening. Then came the first whisper, software, breathless, right behind them. Ethan! He froze. His pulse hammered in his ears as he turned, but nothing was there. Just Mia and Jake, staring at him with the same fear in their eyes. I heard it too, Mia whispered. It said my name. Jake nodded slowly. Mine too, Kyle scoffed. Stop freaking yourselves out. It's just the wind. Then from the darkness, a new voice emerged. Louder, closer, and impossibly familiar. Kyle, don't go any further. Kyle's flashlight trembled. His face turned pale as he recognized the voice. It was his brother's. His brother who had died 2 years ago. The whispers grew stronger, overlapping, filling the silence with a chorus of voices, some pleading, some laughing, some crying. You should leave. But you won't. No one ever does. The forest was talking to them, and it knew who they were. The whispers faded into silence, but the air remained tainted, thick with something unseen. Something watching. Kyle stood frozen, gripping his flashlight so tightly his knuckles turned white. It was him, he muttered. It was my brother. Ethan exchanged looks with Mia and Jake. They all knew it wasn't possible. It wasn't real. But before anyone could speak, the forest itself responded. The shadows moved. At first it was subtle, a flicker among the trees, a disturbance in the mist. Then it was undeniable. Something was stepping forward. A shape emerged between the twisted trunks, towering yet impossible to define. Its form shifted, blending with the darkness, stretching unnaturally, as if it was merely borrowing a shape, imitating something human but failing. The friends backed away instinctively. Then it smiled. It didn't have a mouth. It didn't have a face. But still, it smiled. And in that moment, the whispers returned. Louder. The voices no longer sounded lost or pleading. They sounded hungry. Stay, stay, stay. The entity moved forward, and Ethan ran. Ethan sprinted through the tangled undergrowth, branches clawing at his arms like skeletal fingers. His breath burned in his chest, but the pounding footsteps behind him were worse. Something was chasing them. Kyle, Mia, and Jake ran alongside him, their faces twisted in terror. The whispers had grown deafening, a chorus of voices screaming their names from all directions. Stay, stay, stay. The forest was shifting, the trees twisting unnaturally, paths closing in, shadows stretching impossibly long. Every time they thought they found an opening, the landscape changed, trapping them deeper within. Then Ethan saw it. A clearing. An escape. He pushed forward, bursting into an open space, gasping for air. His friends stumbled in behind him, panting. But the silence that followed was worse. Everything had stopped. No whispers. No wind. Just the unnatural stillness of something waiting. Mia gripped Ethan's arm. It's watching us. They all turned and saw it. Standing at the edge of the clearing, the entity loomed. Its form was shifting, flickering, unable to hold a fixed shape. It was studying them. Then it spoke. Not in whispers, not in screams, but in a voice they recognized. Kyle's brother, Mia's mother, Jake's childhood friend. A perfect imitation. Come back. You belong here. And in that moment, they knew. They were never supposed to leave. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs as he ran, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The ground beneath him shifted, softening into something that didn't feel like dirt anymore. It was wet. It pulsed. Behind him, the whispers grew, overlapping in a chaotic symphony of laughter and cries. The entity was following, not running, not walking. It slid, effortlessly closing the distance despite Ethan's desperate speed. Kyle, Mia, and Jake were somewhere behind him, their footsteps erratic, their voices lost in the unnatural stillness of the air. Every time Ethan turned, the trees seemed closer, their twisted limbs reaching, grasping. Then the flashlight flickered, and for the briefest second, The beam landed on something. A face, but not human, not even close. It had eyes, but too many, blinking in unison, watching from all directions. It had teeth, but not a mouth, just rows of jagged fangs embedded into its skin. Its form pulsed like it was shifting between dimensions, between existence itself. Then it spoke. "Where do you think you're going?" The words weren't heard. They were felt, crawling under Ethan's skin, seeping into his bones. He stumbled, his legs failing him, as the entity reached forward, its many-eyed gaze fixated on him. And for the first time since stepping into the forest, Ethan realized he might never leave. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears as he forced his legs to move, stumbling blindly through the shifting forest. The entity's voice still echoed inside his skull, crawling through his veins like poison. Then, light. A faint glow ahead, flickering between the trees. A way out. "Run!" Ethan choked out, barely recognizing his own voice. Kyle, Mia, and Jake, if they were still alive, had to follow. He sprinted toward the glow, branches slicing his arms like claws. The whispers grew distant, the presence behind him fading. The mist cleared. And there it was, an old wooden cabin standing alone in a patch of dead grass. Lanterns burned on each side of the door, casting an eerie golden hue. Hope! Ethan didn't think. He grabbed the rusty handle and threw the door open. Inside, dust floated in the air, swirling under the dim candlelight. A table, chairs, torn wallpaper peeling off of the walls. It looked abandoned, but safe. Jake crashed in behind him, gasping, his face bloodied from branches. Then Mia. Then Kyle. The door slammed shut. For a moment, silence. The four of them stood, panting, trembling, but alive. Then Ethan noticed something. The candles weren't burning out. They had no wax, no flame, just light, unmoving, frozen in time. A sickening realization gripped his stomach as a new whisper slithered through the room, different from the voices outside. "You made it." The four friends turned slowly toward the table. There were 4 chairs, and each one had a name carved into the wood. Their names. Ethan stepped back, breath hitching. Jake grabbed the door handle. It wouldn't budge. Kyle's voice cracked. "No! No, no, no!" The walls began to move. Not crumbling. Not shaking. Breathing. The cabin wasn't a shelter. It was part of the forest, and they had stepped right into its trap. The walls pulsed, shifting as if they were alive. The air inside the cabin grew thicker, suffocating, tinged with something rotten. Ethan backed away from the table, his gaze fixed on the names carved into the chairs. His name, Mia's, Kyle's, Jake's. How is this possible?" Mia whispered, her voice barely audible. Jake yanked at the door handle, his fingers trembling. Nothing. It wouldn't open. Then the whisper returned. But this time, it wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the room. "Sit down." The 4 friends exchanged horrified glances. No one moved. Then a loud crack echoed through the cabin. The chairs dragged themselves backward, positioning as if waiting for them to take their seats. Kyle cursed under his breath. "Screw this! We're getting out of here!" He grabbed a lantern, throwing it against the wooden wall. The flame erupted, but didn't burn. The fire froze in mid-air, twisting unnaturally, refusing to spread. "Sit down." The whisper was closer now, almost inside their ears, vibrating in their skulls. Ethan stepped away, but as he did, the room stretched. The door grew farther away, unreachable no matter how fast he moved toward it. The cabin was playing with them, toying with them, trapping them. The chairs pulled out further, waiting. "You will sit." And suddenly, Ethan understood. This wasn't an escape. It was a ritual, one they were already a part of. Ethan felt his heartbeat hammering against his ribs as the realization sank in. The cabin wasn't just trapping them, it was preparing them. Jake grabbed Ethan's arm. "We can't do this. We can't sit." But the whispers grew stronger. The walls contracted, the air becoming dense with something unseen. The chairs lurched forward, forcing the group closer to the table. Kyle yelled, kicking over one of the chairs, but the moment it hit the ground, it snapped back upright, unmoved. Then the table itself shifted. A thin layer of dust vanished, revealing something carved into the surface beneath. A symbol, jagged and unnatural, pulsating with a dim glow. It resembled twisted roots, curling into an unreadable language. Sit. Complete the ritual. Mia gasped, gripping her chest as her breath faltered. Ethan turned to her. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilating as if she had just seen something the rest of them couldn't. "It's showing me something," she whispered. "It's—" Then she collapsed. MIA. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her, shaking her shoulders, but she was unresponsive. Her breath was shallow, skin cold. Kyle cursed under his breath. "We need to get out." Now Jake ran to the windows, only to freeze in horror. Outside, the forest had changed. The trees were watching. Their twisted branches formed hollow eyes, pulsating, alive. And between them, figures lurked, humanoid but wrong, distorted by the flickering lantern light. The cabin doors creaked, opening just a fraction. Something was waiting beyond the threshold. "Leave one behind. The rest may go." Ethan's stomach twisted. It wanted a sacrifice. Mia stirred slightly, her voice barely audible. Don't do it." Kyle turned to Ethan. "We can't, man. We can't let one of us stay." But they had minutes left before dawn, and if the forest didn't get what it wanted, none of them would leave. Ethan looked from Mia to the others, their faces filled with desperation. If they stayed, they'd never leave. But if they chose someone to sacrifice, who would it be? The shadows outside grew, creeping closer. The whispers intensified, chanting now, deep, guttural. Jake grabbed a chair and hurled it into the fireplace. The flames engulfed it, but the wood didn't burn. The cabin laughed. Kyle took a step toward the door, swallowing hard. "I'll do it." "No!" Ethan grabbed him, shaking his head. "There has to be another way." Then Mia moved. Slowly, painfully, she stood up. Her eyes were different, blackened, hollow, filled with something ancient. Her voice wasn't hers. "It's already chosen." The air collapsed inward. Ethan felt the world twist, the cabin folding into itself, the whispers consuming the space around them. Then, light, bright, cold, dawn. They were outside, standing at the edge of the forest. The cabin? Gone. But Mia wasn't with them, and when they turned back toward the trees, they saw her, standing between the branches, watching, smiling, waiting. She was part of the forest now, and it wasn't done hunting.